Hey everybody, so today I'm gonna actually open up a computer just to show you guys the basic components, because I have a lot of videos about computers and stuff, but I've never actually opened up a computer and shown the stuff around to show you guys basically how a computer works. I'm actually just opening up the family computer because I don't have my own computer. I use servers and stuff for my computer in a laptop. I have my own laptop, but I don't have an actual desktop. Because a lot of you guys have desktops at home, I'm going to actually open up our family desktop just to show you guys inside of it, and I'll show you guys all the components. I'll pull everything out of it and we'll look at it in detail, and I'll explain what everything does and stuff like that. And I mean, it's not going to be a computer class or anything. If you want that, watch my other videos. They're long, detailed, and probably boring to most people, but this one's just going to be explaining the basics of a computer and all the interesting, I guess, the quick and basic stuff that a lot of people want to know. And I'm just going to go ahead and show and point around everything in the computer and show you guys how it works and what everything is. So let's get started, and I'll crack open the computer now and we'll take a look, alright? Alright guys, this is it. This is the magic. This is the family computer right here. So I'm not sure the exact model or anything. It's oh god, it's an HP. I don't even know. Here we go. Here's all the stuff about it if you want to know. But there you go. It's a HP Pavilion Elite M9517C. Again, this isn't my computer. This is the family computer what everybody uses. But this is the closest thing we have. This is a desktop, so this is what a lot of you guys are probably going to have in your own house. So I wanted to take apart a computer rather than a server, because even though they are incredibly similar, a lot of you guys are your computers are like at home are gonna look like this, not a server. So I wanted to keep it as close as possible to an actual computer. So this is a desktop. So let's just go ahead and I'll point out some of the things in here, and then what I'll do is actually open up, I'll tear everything out of here and we'll look at it very close up. We'll tear all the stuff out of here, we'll look at it in detail, but basically just to point a few things out, I took the panel off the side of the computer, which is over there. So I mean, up here, if we look at the back, this is the power supply unit. This is where you plug it in here. 120 AC goes in there, or 240. You got your switch right there. So that's got a passive PFC supply because it's not automatically switching anyways. There's the fan that cools off the PSU power supply right there, that blows heat out of the PC usually, and it intakes air through the side of the PC on the holes on that vent. Basically what this does is you can see like a million cables coming out of there, and those are all a little bit thick gauge wire. They're pretty thick compared to most wires in the computer, which are just running data. So this carries all the power to everything in the computer. It carries mainly 12 volts through the yellow lines, ground of course are your blacks, that's your 0 volt. Through the red lines you're carrying 5 volts, and orange lines are carrying 3.3 volts. So that's what most power supplies supply through the whole thing. Then you have a different rail for 5 volt USB, I think, and then there's also sometimes a -12 rail, but that's the power supply. So that just supplies power to the entire computer. There's your disk drive, optical CD drive, and in this computer that just plugs in through a SATA port. You have that right there is just like a card reader, so it has a bunch of on the front of the computer. Oh, no, that's actually an expansion bay. It does have a card reader up here. So those are basically just USB ports and stuff like that, and that's just to put in like extra hard drives and stuff like that, or whatever you want to put in there, any extra disk drives. This is for a backup hard drive. It's basically just a huge slot where a hard drive can slide into really easy. The actual hard drive itself for this computer is down there. It's just a 1 terabyte hard drive. It connects through a SATA connector, so it's hiding down there. And down here's the motherboard. You can see the RAM back there, the CPU, and all the PCI slots and stuff like that. So it's just a big jumbled mess right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at it all taken apart and take a look at it in detail. Also, let's just go ahead and take a peek at the back here. Here's all the ports. You have your PCI slots. Those are, you can add cards to those. Just take this out, and I mean, this isn't really a lesson on how to change PCI cards, but that's where all your PCI cards are. There's a video card in there right now, and then you have a fan usually. Usually on computers today, you have a fan on your CPU, your PSU, your GPU. Usually that's an external card, so there's a little fan right there on that graphics card, and then you have another case fan usually. That's like the minimum amount. Sometimes there's more than one case fan. You'll have two, and you'll have sometimes a lot more fans on your motherboard. You may have a fan for other chipsets like the North Bridge and stuff like that. So it just depends. It's different with every single computer and setup. But let's go ahead and take a look at this whole setup in detail here. Alright guys, so I took it all apart and this is what we are down to. So I mean, this is all of it. Let's go ahead and take a look up close. So let's take a look up again. We'll start at the PSU, the power supply unit. It's pretty basic. All it is just a power supply. I mean, it basically supplies power to the computer. I'm not going to explain how it works or anything because that's just way too much detail for this video, but I do have other videos explaining how these power supplies work in great detail and great depth. But yeah, that's too much to explain. But basically, I mean, here's just the basic rundown of it. You have your 120 that comes in here. That's AC. That's your wall power. And it comes out of here. This basically what it does is it converts the power to DC, a stable DC power, because the computer needs very clean power. So it gives out a very clean and stable DC low voltage current. And puts out 12 volts, 5 volts, and 3.3 volts. Those are the main voltages that it puts out. And this is your main connector that goes to your motherboard and that supplies pretty much all the power to your motherboard. You have also this connector which supplies power to mainly your CPU. Then you also have a lot of these little connectors here that just supply power to little devices, whether it be a CD player, a hard drive, or whatever, any external devices or add-on devices or whatever. Same with these here. These are the SATA versions of those. They just supply power to things like hard drives, disk drives, whatever, and it supplies a ground, a 5 volt, and a 12 volt. So that's what those do, and those just run to whatever in the computer. Same thing here, just another smaller version of it. This would run to something like, you might find those are commonly used on floppy disk drives, but now that I think about it, who uses floppy disk drives anymore, but these are just used on things like that, or maybe like a memory card reader or something might use a little adapter like that to get it power. So that's the power supply unit. It just basically, its job is to power the whole computer. Next thing is the hard drive. This holds all the data on the computer, everything, the operating system, anything and everything that makes this computer what it is, like personally, is this, okay? This is what makes the computer run, okay, and this is what makes the computer basically, I mean, it makes it run, but this is what holds everything personal to that computer. So if you take this hard drive out of the computer, now this computer is just a computer. It's not like you can basically switch a hard drive from one computer to another, and if you swapped hard drives between two computers, it would take everything that was on that old computer and put it on the other computer and go back and forth, basically. So this holds everything from your passwords, your data, pictures, anything and everything that you ever do on your computer. Any program you ever install, anything you ever do is going to go onto this hard drive. This holds the Windows operating system that your computer runs off of. This holds absolutely everything that your computer has that it has to memorize goes on here. Now this is, I'm not going to go into detail in explaining how it works either, but this is a terabyte hard drive. You have your little power connector there that would get the power from the PSU, which I just explained, and then your SATA connector here, and that's how it gets the data transferred into the board. This board has, these are the SATA cables, has 4 SATA connectors, and I mean you can put anything in these. You can put extra hard drives, or in this case we have a hard drive and a CD drive. There's 4 of them. This board also has a RAID controller, so you can RAID the hard drives. So that's what those do. These are for connecting hard drives or disk drives. So that's what the hard drive does. It just basically holds all the data to the computer, and that's its job. So now that that's out of the way, that's just a basic explanation of it. I'm not going to get into great detail again of how it works or exactly everything about it, but that's all you need to know for what it does in the computer. So this is the entire motherboard assembly, and then these are the PCI cards slot that went to the PCI slots. This was just a graphics card. It has an HDMI and a DVI on it, and that went into that slot right there. These slots can support anything that you can plug into them pretty much that has that clock frequency. So, I mean, you can put a sound card in here, video card, extra USB ports, extra SATA ports, whatever you want to put in there. These slots can pretty much do anything. This right here is the Wi-Fi card for it. So this was what gave the computer Wi-Fi, so that we can connect to it wirelessly if we wanted to, so we don't have to use the Ethernet port right there. So I mean, again, these can be used for audio or anything. These are SATA ports right here, or not SATA ports. I'm sorry, PCI slots. What am I saying? I'm losing it. But these are PCI Express. These three, and this is just a PCI slot. So I mean, going over the board, let's check it out. You have okay, I explained these. All these connectors that you see all over the board, these little weird looking things. These are just for basically the external USB ports to plug into the card readers, anything like that. This is just all basically extra data ports for data I/O on the card readers, the front USB ports and stuff like that. I already explained that, but and also things like the backup hard drive and all that, those are all going to plug into those ports. So it's just for extra data and whatnot. Here is the power connector that I showed here. This is where this connector would come in from the PSU and supply all the power to the motherboard. So then you have also an IDE, I think is what it is. It looks like an IDE. No one ever uses these anymore. It's labeled floppy. So this is for if you want to have a floppy drive. God knows why it has that, because that's incredibly old, but this computer is not using that. 4 RAM slots, so these are the RAM sticks here. This is DDR2 RAM. These are each 2 GB sticks. So I mean, basically, to explain what the RAM does, every computer has RAM. It stands for random access memory. Again, I could get into great detail about this, about frequency and everything, but I'm not going to. But basically, you have 4 RAM slots in this computer. Some computers have 6, some computers have 2, some computers have 8, some servers have 32. It doesn't matter, really, but there's 4 RAM slots, and basically what the RAM does is it's so your computer can run fast, okay? Basically, this hard drive here holds memory that's going to be with your computer pretty much forever until you delete it. But it has an actual disk in there that spins around and it reads the data from it, and it takes time. This is very, very, very quick. This can pull data from these chips faster than you can blink your eye. It can pull a million things of data within the time you can blink your eye. So it pulls data very quickly. So it makes it so that your computer runs fast. So let's say you open up a really big program that has a lot of things, a lot of options, right? And it has to memorize all those, and it has to have it so that it can quickly access those, so that when you're running the program, it's not so slow. It doesn't have to go look for it on the hard drive. Basically, you will launch a program that has a lot of stuff, and it takes it from the hard drive once, and it moves it into the RAM, so that when you're running that program, it can just pull it from the RAM really quickly and make the program run fast. That way, it doesn't have to go to the hard drive every time to find it on the hard drive. It moves it to the RAM, and these can make that program run very fast and smooth because it can access it from these, because these aren't physical. These chips, they're just chips. They don't have to be on a disk that's physically spinning, and you have to wait for it to get around to get what you're looking for. So just basically store stuff temporarily till you shut off your computer. Once you shut off your computer, everything on here is cleared. So it just holds stuff for while you're running, certain pieces of software, certain things on your computer, so that it can just access it really quick on the spot, and it just stores stuff that your computer can get around very quickly. Over here is the CPU. This is what basically, it's the processor, the central processing unit. It's basically what processes everything. I mean, it's the heart of the computer. It's basically, you know, the engine of a car. It's what makes everything work. So we'll go ahead and remove it. It's got a heat sink attached to a fan. I don't recommend you guys do this at home unless you have thermal paste to recoat it. I had to recoat this one anyways because this one looks like crap right now, but that's it right there. But yeah, you have to have thermal paste on these, so don't go ahead and pop your heat sink off like that unless you have paste to redo on this. You have to have it pasted or else it'll overheat. This is the actual CPU chip itself. We can go ahead and pull it out. So it's an AMD. I'm not sure the exact chip this is, but that's it. I don't know. It's a Phenom, AMD Phenom. So, I mean, again, I don't know the exact chip or anything. This isn't my computer. I really don't ever really run this computer much. So, I'm just using it for this video. But this is basically what makes the entire server, or the entire computer run. Sorry guys, that iPhone was just out of focus there. All I had to do was stop the video and it just, I don't know, it fixed itself. I hate when it does that. But anyways, yeah, I mean, to put it basic and simple, the CPU, basically, you give it an input and it gives you an output. So it's basically like the engine of a car. You give it some gas and it gives you power. It runs the entire computer. It processes all the data from the hard drive, all the data from the RAM, and it gives you, you know, it processes what goes to your video card, and it just basically is the heart of the entire thing. Everything eventually will run through here, and it just makes the entire thing tick. That's the easiest, simple way to put it. I'm just going to leave it right there because, I mean, this isn't a computer class or anything. I'm just making it for you guys to basically understand what everything does. But it is incredibly important to the computer, and it does have an incredibly large effect of the speed of the computer and everything. The computer relies heavily on the processor, so that's what it does. I'm just going to stop right there before I get too technical. One more thing I forgot to tell you guys, and I didn't leave this out, is you have a north bridge. Now, I'm not sure if that's what this is on this board, but it looks like it is. There's a north bridge and a south bridge, and they might be built in together on this board because I can't easily tell the difference between the two on this board. Basically, what they do is the north bridge connects the RAM and the south bridge to the CPU. The south bridge connects your SATAs, your hard drives, your PCI slots, all your USBs, all that external data and all that crap goes to the south bridge. It connects to the north bridge, okay? So the south bridge connects all your your disks and all that stuff to the north bridge. The north bridge connects your south bridge, which is all that stuff, all those ports and stuff, to your RAM and to your CPU. So the north bridge communicates between the CPU and the RAM, so that they can work with each other. And the south bridge communicates to the north bridge and all your slots, your expansion slots, and your memory for your hard disks and whatever you may have plugged into it. That's what those do. So it's an incredibly important chip. It gets very hot in this case, very, very hot. It processes all the data, everything like that. It has to be fast because it's communicating with the RAM and the CPU. Alright guys, so I actually decided, some of you guys are going to hate me for this, but I just fired it up here on the bed. Yeah, and I guess for some reason you guys are going to say it's not good, but I couldn't find anything wrong with doing it. Of course it may get a little hot, but it's fine because I'm not going to run it for that long and I'm not doing anything on it. But I'm just showing you the bare basics of how it works. We actually have it hooked up to my projector right there on the screen, so it is working fine. You know, we can see that PCIs are always an option. These are not needed to run anything. These are always little extra slots. So normally we would have our video card there for HDMI. We have a VGA output here. Also, there is a DVI output down there. But, you know, you can run just a VGA monitor, which is what we're running right now through the projector. Just the hard drive containing the OS. Hell, if you want to know the truth, you don't even need the hard drive. You could boot off of something like a flash drive or something too, if you had that. But most of the time you're going to have a hard drive, an actual hard drive. But you can load an operating system like Linux or something off a flash drive if you wanted to. So you have your hard drive. All of our RAM sticks are back in there. Our CPU's got its fan going. It's pretty hot. It's good. This thing is steaming hot. I don't know how this thing actually survives. It's actually so hot. I think if you put water in there, it'd probably boil off. It's hot. Like, I can't touch it. I can't believe they designed this actual board without putting a fan on there. It's actually amazing how hot that heatsink gets. And I can't believe it hasn't, like, self-destructed over the years. And then, of course, our PSU. So the PSU is just running into the main motherboard right there. You have a PSU line going into the hard drive, the SATA going into the hard drive on the SATA port, the first SATA port on the board. So that's how it's loading all the data. And then just your CPU. I don't know if I explained this earlier, but this is actually the CPU power here. This is because the CPU takes a lot of power. If you didn't know, your CPU dissipates a lot of heat. Some CPUs are rated in like how much heat they can dissipate and stuff like that. They waste a lot of heat, so they take a lot of power. So the CPU also has its own dedicated power lines. It does also tap off these over here, but it has its own dedicated 12-volt lines, and that's what that's for. One other thing I wanted to tell you guys that I forgot to tell you, because I know someone's going to say something about it. The RAM slots, there's blue and black. Ow, that thing is hot. There's a blue and a black. That's because those are the pairs, so if you can't just run one RAM stick in here, you have to have them in pairs of 2. You can't have 3, you can't have 1. You have to have a set in the blue and a set in the black. You can run one set of 2, so you can run a set of the blue or the set in the black. Usually you can only run it in one or the other. I think it's just the black. If you only have 2 sticks, I think you can only run 2 in the black and the blue won't work. And if you have 4 sticks, you run them all, and of course they're there. But you can't just have like 2 in the blue and 1 in the black, or 2 in the black and 1 in the blue. They are pairs. So the pairs have to be matching. They have to be the exact same sticks and everything. So that's what those are indicating. Those are the 2 sets of RAM. Those are the pairs. They have to be exactly the same. So the same clock frequency, the same type of RAM, the same everything. That's why they are different colors. They're called banks, if you want to know the technical name. So in my servers, when I open those up, you guys will see like 6 banks or 3 banks. There's A, B, and C. That's a little bit different. Those are 6 sticks. But anyways, so that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I mean, this is just the bare bone basic explanation of a computer. It's very basic, nothing, advanced or anything here. I just explained all the components on the computer. I mean, I have other videos that'll pretty much tell you how to make a computer from sand if you want to do it. I mean, I go into great details of all the specs and stuff, or I'm going to be making those videos if I don't already have them. I do have a couple of them like that already, but if you guys are total geeks and you guys want to watch that, go ahead. But that's pretty much it for now, guys, just explaining the basics of a computer. I hope you guys enjoyed this little teardown tutorial thingamajig that we have going here, and as always, guys, have a good one.